A game is nothing if there's no user interaction, right? So what we are going to do in this lesson is add the arrows that we are going to have on each side of the animal. After that, you'll see what the layout of the game is going to be like. And we are going to see how we can listen to a touch or a click event on a sprite, and how we can make that be actually pixel perfect. So that, for example, if I click outside of the image, but within the rectangle, it will not trigger. But then if I click on where the image is, it will trigger. Whereas if I don't use pixel perfect checking, it's going to be treated as a rectangle. So if I click here, it's going to trigger, even if I don't feel like I'm really touching the animal. Let's start by adding the right arrow. This dot right arrow is going to be a sprite, game dot add dot sprite, position 580 on X. On Y, it's going to be at the center of the world. So this dot game dot world dot center X. See how I'm also using that on the center Y. Sorry. See how I'm also using that on the pig. So that's going to go on the center, and it's going to be the arrow key, which I've added up here. There you go. This is enough for me to see the arrow, but I want to set its anchor point to the middle. I usually like to work with anchor points in the middle. It's just easier to place objects, in my opinion. 0.5. And I'm also going to give it some... This is not going to be used right now, but we're going to use it later. So I'm adding a custom object in here, custom parameters. And I'll say that this one has a direction 1, because the right arrow, when you... Let me reload this. When you click on the right arrow, the animals are going to move on this direction. That's positive on X, so I'm calling that 1. And if it's moving to the left, from the right to the left, it's going to be -1. So why am I creating an object and then putting a lot of stuff in there? Well, just one thing now, but in other games we'll put a lot of stuff. It's because there are properties in the game like anchor, like angle, scale, and I don't want to collide with some of these properties by mistake. So that's why I created a custom parameters object, and then I put everything that's custom there. So I'm sure it's not going to crash with any existing framework feature that I might not be aware of. Let's just replicate this code. I'm just going to bring it in there very quickly for the left arrow, which, as you might have guessed, is the same one but flipped on X. So it's the same one, but see how the scale on X is being set to -1. This is an alternative way to the set to that we used. We could just do .x or .y. And now we have the arrow on both sides. Now time to add the user input. So we need to enable user input in these two arrows. I'm going to start with the left arrow. So let's do left arrow allow user input. This dot left arrow dot input enabled equal true. That means that user input is enabled for this particular sprite. This dot left arrow dot input that's now available after we've enabled it dot pixel perfect click equals true. That means that I'm going to listen for pixel perfect, not just a big rectangle. And now what happens? Now let's add the event, because so far nothing's happening. Okay, input is enabled, but nothing is really happening. This dot left arrow dot event. The event is called on input down, which could be a touch event or a click event. It doesn't matter. This works on mobile, on web. And then we add a method. The method is going to call switch animal. And we have to pass the current object as well. This method doesn't exist, so we can add it. It's going to be called switch animal, and it's a new method that has two parameters. The first one is the actual sprite, and the second one is the event. It will give us information about the event. Console log, and this is a move animal. So when you click an arrow, the animal will move in that direction. Let's see if this works. So when I click move animal, see how it's showing on the console. For the right arrow, it's exactly the same code. So I'm just gonna copy and paste that in. And then lastly, for the animal itself, we also want to enable user input, because when you touch the animal is when it's going to animate. So for the animal, I'm going to add a very similar code, which is, let's see, over here, input enable true, pixel perfect true, and the method this time is called animate animal. So we have to add that method as well. The method called animate animal. This is animate. And see how now we can trigger that. Word of warning regarding pixel perfect checks. Pixel perfect checks are more expensive in terms of computer power than a rectangle check, because you're basically testing on a pixel per pixel level. So you don't have to use this if you don't need to. If it's not necessary, don't use it. In this case, I think it is, because if I click here, I don't want the animal to move, but if I only want to move when I touch it. But just so you know, it has a cost. Nothing is free in this life, and this has a cost. So now you know how to listen for a touch event or a click event, and how to execute a certain action when that event is listened.